Hey, coffee lovers, Mark here from Whole Latte Love. I have Nick with me today. We're going to show you how to get your Gaggia, your new Gaggia Magenta, made in Italy, by the way, right,
Magenta Prestige, yep, made in Italy, as you can see right there with the flag.
We're going to get it out of the box, get it set up real quick, show you how to make a coffee and a milk drink. Then later on, we'll talk about programming and how to test your water, that kind of thing. So let's get this puppy out of the box, shall we?
I think you said what, Mark? Brand new to ready to brew,
Brand new to ready to brew in a moment. So I'm going to give you a power cord.
Perfect.
Got a little bag here with some lubricant, water test.
Lubricant test strip, our little scoops brush and adjustment key. Make sure that you don't miss that.
Your old, your manual.
Your manual, but you're watching us, so you won't really need to refer to that.
Drip tray.
Drip tray.
And another little cup rack.
Yeah, this is the cup riser. It can either sit down on the drip tray, or you can use it to elevate your cups to reduce splashing. So let me just get this power cord unboxed here.
And I'm going to set this down on the floor and get this out of the box.
Now, Mark, I think those thumbnails, you know, showing off your muscles.
Yeah, right.
I don't know if you need any help with that one.
Nice protective wrap here on the machine for you.
Well, it has come all the way from Italy.
It has.
It's got quite a journey that it's got to make.
Oh, in here we have a milk carafe. We'll get that out in a moment.
Yeah, that milk carafe, that's what makes this a one-touch espresso machine. That means that you can have it perform the grind and brew and the milk frothing all in one go.
And a couple little hold-down pieces of tape here. We'll get rid of those.
There we go. Here's your power cord. You want to tuck that in behind our Crema Wave over there. And then, very important, if we can get a close-up on the screen.
I'll show you where the power cord goes here.
Right in the back, actually. And there is a two-position power switch that you do want to make sure you flip into the on position.
So we'll put that on. It's okay to turn that on before we plug it in.
Exactly. And then, Brian, if you can get us a close-up on the screen here, there is just a protective sticker that's already on the screen. Let me see. No. There we go. We're going to want to go with camera 2, I think. Perfect. So, yeah, just peel off this protective sticker. So if you've powered the machine on, it's making noises, and you're like,
nothing's happening.
Just peel that right off. And here we go. So we'll cover just some of the very basics. First of all, just select your language. Just like some of the other Gaggia machines, we have the two buttons on either side being our selection and our moving. So the bottom left, that's going to be our check mark to select. We're going to leave it on English and confirm. So it's saying, hey, let's just get started. Add water.
Add some water.
Good first step, I would say.
I'll grab some water. Maybe you can get that, show the milk carafe we'll be using.
I'll unwrap that. Yeah, so here's our milk carafe. This is what makes this machine one touch. We've got a couple of components here. There's the bottom section that comes undone where you can rinse this out in the sink. You want to make sure, too, there's a little tab on the edge of this. You always want to make sure that that's facing the back of the carafe so that it's not pressing against the front of the machine. We have our little arm that extends out, and then there's a little lid that you can take off so you can fill the carafe without having to take the entire lid off.
All right, so it's telling us to add the water. So I did take you can remove this, you can fill it right at the machine if you want, just by opening the lid. I'm going to drop our water into the machine.
Just want to pull the front out too here just for a sec. Let's get our drip tray nice and snugly in there.
Properly seated.
There we go. And it may look blue. There's a protective coating on the drip tray. That film is called laser film, and that does peel right off. We're going to leave it nice and clean, though, for our demo that we're doing here.
Yeah, so you would want to pull that off. And now the machine is telling us add beans.
That's right. So before we add our beans, though, this is going to be my first recommendation for those of you who like a particularly strong cup of coffee. Now is the best time for you to adjust your grinder. And so we're going to use the scoop. It's got a little hex key in there. And then there's a little arrow that points to little dots on the inside. And we're just going to twist all the way over. So if you're turning it to, that's going to be counterclockwise, as far over to the right as it goes. Now we're on our finest setting.
And it's telling us to add some beans. So Nick, I think they're over by you.
That's right. We've got some Whole Latte Love Crema Wave here.
And while we're up here, you can see the bypass toaster. So that little tool you used also has a little measure on it.
That's right. That lets you use pre-ground coffee. So I'll bring that up here. 1 level scoop of this is all the coffee you need to brew a pre-ground shot. So this thing has other uses besides just being used to set your grind
So
setting.
you might use that for some pre-ground decaf, what have you. So we got our
exactly.
beans in. So I did have a little cup over here so we can catch the rinse out of this.
There we
So
go.
I am just going to hit the check mark because we did add our beans. Now place a container under the water spout.
Coffee and water spout. So this spout too, that we've got right next to the main spout, that was pre-installed in the machine when we took it out. This is the hot water spout. It's used for things like priming, which may come up again, for example, if you haven't used the machine for a little while, and for dispensing hot water.
So we'll go ahead and do that. And I'm noticing under here there is a piece of tape on our coffee spout
right
there.
on the spouts, and then it's prompting us to press the start-stop button. That's going to be the primary button that you use to actually control the machine.
So this is just filling our machine up with water. And there it goes. And you only have to do this once when you're first starting up the machine. Or if you,
Get that other
Oh,
tape there. Yeah.
okay.
All right, and the next steps will set your water hardness. So we're going to go into water hardness in more detail later, because if I were you, I would definitely want to be drinking a delicious
nice
cappuccino before going through a bunch of instructions. So we're going to go just to setting 2, and we've saved. And now we're ready to use the machine. So we're out of the box. Let's just say we want to make a coffee.
It's going to do a little rinse here. It's a little startup rinse, I think. We'll see that.
And I'll get our carafe loaded as well. So again, we can fill right from the top. And if this is a brand new carafe, you do want to give that a quick rinse as well, just to make sure that it's been cleaned off before you put anything in it. So I'll take care of that right now.
And you can see it gives us a progress bar up here, what's going on. It's just warming up, and then it's going to do a little rinse. If you wanted to, I'm going to let this go right into the drip tray. This part of keeping the machine clean for you. And that first one, sometimes you don't get water out of there. That's normal.
So we'll fill up the carafe, though, if we want to get a little closer on that. And then
Oh,
basically
we've got an insert the brew group message here.
insert our brew group.
So let's take a look at where that is.
Yeah, the brew group is actually right on the inside of the machine. This is a component that does have just a little bit of play inside the group here. So this is something to get used to, just putting that firmly in, closing the door again, and we're ready to go.
Okay.
So that's something you're going to need to be taking that brew group out probably once a week to give it a quick rinse. So you'll get very hands-on with that very early on in your ownership. And then let's take a quicker look at the carafe that we have here. So again, right next to the socket that plugs in, if we can get that on cam there. You see we've got this little hole. So again, we don't have to actually take the entire top of the carafe off, and then just fill that with as much milk as you want. There is a min and max line. And then we'll put our lid back on. But yeah, Mark, let's do a cappuccino probably.
So,
Show
okay,
people
well,
how
let's
simple
see.
that is.
Would have walked us through it, I think. Now let's take that spout out of there and stuff. But I'll hit cappuccino. We'll go through the programming here. For right now, we're going to make about a 5.5 ounce drink.
I think this cup will be
So
the
we'll
perfect
just
size
make
for
it
that.
at the levels that the machine comes programmed. You can change that. So I'm just going to hit start here. And it's telling me again what to do here. Insert the carafe with the spout open. So my spout, that's open.
That's
so
right.
Pop on the carafe here. And we'll just hit resume, the play button there.
That's right.
So now it's going to grind up the beans, Nick. Now there's something you should know, right? With
That's
the first few, 6 to 10 drinks being made?
Yeah, they'll be a little bit weaker. Your pucks will be a little bit less cohesive. Basically, the machine has something called the Gaggia adapting system. And so that's really just a clever bit of programming. So based on your coffee's density, the dose that you picked, the grind setting, it's going to learn over time how to grind better. And that's basically what it does. So our first few shots might be a bit faster than the later shots when the machine has gotten to learn how to actually grind and brew the coffee. But there we go. Cappuccino, obviously, we're doing our milk first, whereas if this were a flat white, for example, the machine would flip the script on us and we would get the espresso first.
Espresso first, get a different mix.
And that's all automatic. Again, this is the one touch. We didn't have to touch or move anything once we got the carafe in. That steam coming out of the side looks pretty cool as well.
And that's normal as well.
That's right. So there is a little catch tray under the brew group. steam comes out, obviously the machine's getting quite hot to froth that milk for us. And then we're going to brew our coffee.
And again, these first few are going to be a little on the weaker side as the Gaggia adapting system does its thing.
That's right, exactly. But the other thing too is we can change some of our settings just as far as the strength of the drink is concerned as well.
So let's talk about this. So we got the milk clean, the quick
Quick
clean.
clean. So that's
Go
just
ahead.
going to clean our frothing assembly here. So you can just leave the entire carafe in, and then we're going to run a quick rinse. So maybe we go to camera 3, and we'll take a closer look at that. And so basically we're just going to get this system purged and cleaned out, because what that does is now, once this process is finished, we can close the spout, and you could pop that right back in the refrigerator and then have it ready for next time.
Ready for next time, ready tomorrow. Yeah, very nice. So how about should we make a coffee?
Let's make a coffee. I think that's a great idea. So
Okay.
obviously there is, if we go back to our screen here, just a option that says coffee. So that's going to be a pressure brewed long coffee. So everything is still using an espresso grind. It's being extracted under high pressure. So the coffee basically is just going to pull a longer extraction for us. So right now it's set to 4 ounces. So let's just go over some of the very basics here for our programming. If I want to increase that, I'll just push the button that corresponds with coffee. Let's say that we want to go up to 6 ounces, and then we'll just confirm our selection. Temperature, you have low, medium, and high. And then our beans that we have around here, you have 5 strength settings that can go all the way up to 11.5 grams of brewed coffee, or of ground espresso.
And then up here, we could go to make 2 cups, right?
That's right. So if you're brewing for 2 for your very first coffees, you can actually set it to do a ×2 drink. This is great either if you want to make 2 of the same drinks for 2 different people at the same time, or if you want to brew a lot of coffee all at once just for, say, like a travel mug, for example.
But we'll go back to 1 maybe?
Go back to 1, and then that start-stop button, that's going to be our true north as far as telling the machine what to do here.
So, I really love these machines for that, because you can turn them on in the morning, and, like in definitely under 2 minutes, you can have your cup of coffee ready to go, or as we saw, a nice cappuccino, a milk drink.
You don't need a smart plug or something like that. This machine, it's going to power on and rinse first and then be ready to brew. It's got something called a thermoblock. You can already see too how much richer that extraction's looking just even on our second shot. Like I said though, definitely recommend setting the grinder as fine as it goes. We also are using more ground coffee, which is going to add more of the richness and body as well. And you do have that nice kind of cascading foam there. That's something that's just part of the pressure brewed espresso process, as opposed to making a regular filter coffee. So I think even your first long coffee on here is going to be that much more flavorful and full-bodied, say, than something you're getting just out of a regular drip maker.
And so much easier, really.
Well, yeah, I think I just pushed a button. So let's get back on our screen again, because I want to show something that's pretty important, because this is how simple the machine works. Basically, we're being prompted now, do we want to save our change? So if I hit yes, what that's done is the changes that I just made on demand there are going to be remembered for the next time that we make another drink. And that's as easy as programming gets as far as the machine goes, is you can make it as is, or you can make a change, and then if you like your change, you can save it.
So it saved everything we did, because we increased the size to 6 ounces, increased
our
the
size,
strength,
our strength,
temperature.
and our dose, exactly. So you might be wondering too about that little hatch that we showed you up top before. One more push on the coffee strength shows you the scoop icon. That's how you use your pre-ground. So really, really easy to do there.
Okay. So let's talk, we skipped over we wanted to get you making a drink real quick, so we skipped over like the water hardness. So,
right, so the water hardness, that's going to be an important thing for you to program in the machine. What that does is it just tells you how frequently you have to descale. So Mark, we've got a test strip right here, I believe, and then what I'm going to do is just, whatever the water is that you're going to fill your machine with, that's what you want to test, obviously. So if you're filling it with a pitcher from your refrigerator, use that water for testing as opposed to your tap, for instance. So just whatever water is going in the machine, that's what you want to test. I'll get us some water as well.
So we'll show you how testing the water works, and you can go back and do this at any time. Of course, it's best to do it right when you set up the machine. Like I said, we just wanted quick drinks, right? 'Cause
That's
everybody
right.
wants their coffee.
So, well, like I said, a little caffeine help you focus on some of the more meticulous details here, but we'll just pull this open. And so this is important too. We have more of these strips available, but if you ever move, for example, or if you wind up gifting your machine to someone else, you always want to make sure that you retest whatever the new water is that you're putting inside the machine. So, Mark, I'll give you that if you want to just do the honors of getting that dipped there. And then if we could get back on our main screen here after Mark's done doing his test, we'll talk a little bit about how to set that and also how to interpret our strip as well. So you'll notice we have our home button on the main screen. Home is always just going to take us back to our main menu of drinks. So let's say we're in a drink, you can press home, go right back. If we want to go into our settings now for cleaning and maintenance, we'll just click clean and set. So under settings, that's where we're going to go first because that's where we're going to find that water hardness. And so again, we have our top two arrows for up and down corresponding to the top left and top right, our back button, and then our confirm button down there. So water filter, and then we can see down there we have water hardness. So I'm going to go down to water hardness. And then in there, we'll confirm. Mark, where are we as far as hardness is concerned? It looks like we've got 2 green and then 2 not
red.
Green, or red.
Sometimes, you give this, it's about a minute for it to do its reading. Yep,
And
so
then
we
we'll
want to
do
have
this. So Brian, you want to go right back there. So as it turns out, I was right because we have 2 red and 2 green. And it's as simple as just looking at those squares and then making the selection on the screen of which water hardness corresponds to your water that you're using. And so it's that simple. You just go in and press confirm.
I'll hit the check mark here.
Yep. And so based on how many drinks you make and also how hard your water is, that's going to prompt the machine to tell you to run a descaling cycle. And that's going to be really important. You just use some of Gaggia's decalcifying solution. You pour that into your water tank. And to run that, we'd go back into our settings menu.
Some of that right here.
Because we actually have a descaling function right inside the settings menu. So that's one of the things I love about the Magenta Prestige. Very easy to take care of it, very easy to find everything that you'd want. So you can see we have a quick milk clean that's going to run the same cycle that we had just run on our carafe. So let's say, for example, you missed that and you wanted to do that. We've got a deep milk clean where you would use some calibrated milk cleaner as well, descaling, brew group cleaning. So really just those 4, but altogether very easy. And again, I'm just pressing home to take me home for our coffee.
Now, we did talk about, the descaling. Now, if you wanted to extend the descaling, let's talk about water filters. And I got one out there. So we got the Intenza Plus.
That's right. So this is a in-tank water filter. That means that it fits right over the water inlet inside your machine. And you do have to let the machine know if you're going to be using a water filter. So we would go back into our settings again, and then you've got the option for water filter. That's just number 2. Oh, sorry. And we can either activate one or disable one. So let's say that we wanted to activate. It's a process. It does involve actually putting the filter in the tank. You typically want to let this soak in water for maybe like 2 to 5 minutes, because basically what's happening is you have to pull water through here. And you can get a vapor lock, right, if you try to pull air through a water line. So by soaking this in water first, then plugging it into your water tank, the process that will run actually will draw water through the filter to activate it, and then the machine knows, hey, we've got a water filter in here.
Right. So, what I usually do with these is I'll hold them, in a bucket or something, and then do a little squeezing until all the air bubbles come out. And we'll just show you where that would actually set in here if you want to go there. I always think it's a good idea to use a water filter. It's going to increase the time between descalings, and it's also going to dechlorinate your water, so you get better tasting coffee.
Get fine particles out of there, stuff like that.
That would just go in there just
Pops
like
right
that.
On, exactly.
Pops right on.
So
make sure it's
really
down there.
Simple.
There is a setting on the filter based on your recorded water hardness.
Correct.
So it'll tell you where to set this. There's a little ABC
And
settings
that's
here.
all included in the paperwork that comes with the filter as well, if you're not sure how to set that. I also cover it in my, I believe, Magenta Prestige video that I did
Yeah.
maybe about a year ago, if any of you remember me from that.
All right, so we'll take that out for now. I mean, let's take a look maybe at, again, just go through some of the real quick programming of the drinks here. We're going to want to not do that, right?
Yep. Oh, so actually just press home.
We'll just press home.
We may have to...
We'll power cycle it to
Power
get it out of
cycle,
there.
that's right.
So, I mean, that's one thing you can always do. If something's not quite right, you just turn it off and turn it back on.
Yeah. And there's the hard switch in the back, too.
Yes.
If you ever need to do that as well.
Because we could have definitely gone through putting that filter in. We just don't want to take up all your time doing that.
But one thing I know people ask a lot is to know how the bypass doser actually does work. So maybe I'll demo that for anybody who's curious to see. And so you can either use pre-ground coffee, or if you have like an older coffee grinder maybe that grinds roughly well for espresso, you could do that. So let me prep that, Mark, for a second for the bypass doser. I'll grab another cup too.
So I just turned the machine back on here. And Nick's going to grind. Let me take you through some of just the different drinks that we have available on the machine. So right here we have espresso, coffee, cappuccino, then a latte macchiato, Americano, which happens to be one of my favorites, which is just a shot of an espresso with some hot water added over the top. Then hot water if you're doing oatmeal or tea or something like that.
That's
Use
right.
that there. Espresso lungo, which is just another version of espresso that has more liquid in it. The cafe au lait, and that's now we get into drinks where it's going to be espresso first, then the milk.
Versus the milk, right.
And the flat
Same
white.
with the flat white doing the double extraction.
Yes, and the flat white does a double. And we got a ristretto, which is a shorter espresso. The cafe cortado, which is just kind of like a really coffee forward kind of milk drink.
Coffee forward, shorter milk drink.
Yep.
Lower volume than a cappuccino.
Okay, so we'll go back here. Nick, take it away with that
so
now.
let's just show a coffee now brewed with the bypass doser. So we would go back in again, and now I'm going to just update my selection to the coffee scoop there. Just to demo these two, you can lock this tray right in, and that's just going to reduce the amount of distance between the spouts and your cup. That reduces splashing. And it just means the coffee has less distance to travel. So actually, you know what I'm going to do first, Mark? I'm going to preheat my cup. I'm going to do something called a blank shot. So I'm going to say, yes, let's make this, but I'm not going to add any coffee. And so what's going to happen is this cup's a little cooler than I'd like. So when you run a blank shot, what we're doing is we're just going to run water through the brew group and through the spouts. This is a great way to do maybe a longer rinse if you ever wanted to do that. Before you extract. And it's a great way just to preheat the machine and also your cup before you start making your coffee as well. And so we've got nice rubber grips to keep anything from
So
sliding.
again, you're just putting a little hot water through the whole system.
That's right.
By telling it you were going to make a shot with pre-ground, you don't actually put the pre-ground in there.
Exactly. And so you can see we've got a lot of steam. This is looking good. My cup is starting to warm up too. These are the not neutral, they're cappuccino cups. This is really thick glass. So that's something that I want to point out for any super automatic machine is if you want really hot coffee, make sure that you preheat your cups first.
You see we got this progress bar here. We don't have to go the whole way if we didn't want to. You can always stop
That's
any
right.
cycle.
And that's for exactly any cycle for a milk drink or for, let's say, an Americano or something. You can stop that. My cup's
Are we
feeling
there for you?
a lot toastier. I'll take care of it.
Okay.
Just dump it right into
Thanks,
the sink
Nick.
and bring it right back. So we've got our heated cup now, and then we'll go right back in again. And we'll notice I needed to switch back because I didn't actually save that. So now we'll dump this in to the top. And there is one side of this that has a slight taper, so that makes it a little bit easier. I have to sort of hold it away from the camera here. And what that does, it's called the bypass doser because located straight below here is the brew group. So we've loaded it directly, and then we're just going to hit start.
So again, great way to do your decaf,
That's right.
later in the day, or if you're just a decaf drinker. And
I mean, or if you just wanted to try a different kind of coffee for some reason.
And you can use that with any drink on any
That's
drink.
correct.
Milk drinks
Exactly.
as well. So if you want a decaf latte, you can go there.
And so you may see your extraction running differently too when you're using the bypass doser, just based on the grind of that coffee versus the coffee that you're using in your bean hopper and your current settings for your grinder. So I used the Chiato E37S that we've got just off
commercial
camera.
grinder.
That's right.
But I mean, that's a good point. You don't want to use like coffee that's ground for drip brewing.
Yeah.
For that, you're not going to get a very good. You want espresso ground
Exactly.
coffee.
Something you can typically see on the containers, or if you're buying it online, we'll indicate if it's for espresso. But yeah, don't buy just regular American style coffee because it's not going to extract properly. It's going to run really fast, and you're going to have a really weak cup there. So, looks like we just needed a little bit more water.
Oh, and it tells us that.
And it'll prompt us, and then we can, if you want to hand me your Pyrex there,
Yeah.
I'll just refill that with some fresh water. And then while we do that too, we're within about 5 minutes. Brian, do we have any questions from the audience? We can resume brewing as well.
We sure do.
Perfect.
Russell would like to know if the Magenta steams milk better than the Anima.
So that's a great question. I would say that all things being equal, it is the same carafe being used on both machines. So the process for frothing the milk is basically going to be the same. Where the Magenta really shines compared to the Anima is going to be in things like drink preparation order, like Mark was saying with the cafe au lait or the flat white, where there's more authenticity just in these drinks with their preparation. Not to mention too that on a machine like the Magenta, every drink can be programmed individually. So on the Anima, that means your coffee temperature and your coffee strength. Those are set on a universal basis for every drink on the machine. Whereas on the Magenta, you might like your cafe au lait really strong, for example, or you might want your cappuccino very delicate with less coffee, or you might want your flat white really hot.
Yeah.
And you can make those changes, and I think that is one of the things that sets kind of the new generation of Gaggias apart from the old ones, is that you can be more particular about how you want your coffee prepared.
Yeah, and I think that flipping of the milk order, that's really, really big when it comes to the quality of a milk drink. I know, like, I love the flat whites, right? Because I don't like super milky drinks, and it's a way more coffee forward drink. But that one is going to do the espresso first, and then you'll do your milk. The milk, and it's just a whole different mixing process than what we saw with like the cappuccino, which is going to give you more of a layered feel to it.
Right, because you're getting the milk first, and that's giving it a little bit of time to separate.
Yeah.
And then you're brewing in, and then you do get a bit of that layering.
Yeah. Anything else, Brian?
That was a great question.
Okay. All right. Well, look, I think, Nick, we pretty much covered it. If you do have any more questions, you can always use those down in the comments. And Nick, I think we should mention CoffeeCast here.
That's right. So if you want to take a closer look at this machine, you can sign up for what we have. It's called CoffeeCast, and that'll pair you with one of our experts for a one-on-one video demonstration on how the machine works. And so that way we can go into greater detail on any of the features, any of the drinks, programming, accessory suggestions, all sorts of things. So book one of those. It's really simple. We've got a link in the footer of our website that says CoffeeCast. Pick a time that works for you, and then we'll pair you up with an expert who knows the most about your machine.
All right. Nick, thanks so much for taking us through the Magenta Prestige.
Absolutely.
You guys, thanks for watching, and we'll see you back here soon for more of the best anything coffee, everything coffee, brought to you by Whole Latte Love.
Everything
Thanks,
and
guys.
anything.